Okay, guys, and we're back with another video. I'm Seth from the Lonely Stoner podcast, and today I'm joined with a very special guest, Andrew from Boxing Bros UK.
Oh,
Now, Boxing
bless you.
Bros are a great YouTube channel, and I've been fans of for a while, and there's no better time than now to talk about all the craziness that's going on in the world of boxing. So, Andrew, how are you, mate?
Oh. Yeah, bless you. Thanks for that introduction. Thanks for that
Of
introduction.
course.
Yeah, lovely to be on your channel. We've collaborated before, and yeah, this guy Seth knows his stuff. So if you haven't subscribed and all that stuff, all the usual stuff, click it. Takes 2 seconds, get it done. But yeah, all good. Lots of good and bad nonsense going on in boxing, as is always the case. Seth, I'm I'm
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be getting into it.
Andrew, who do you think's next for Moses Itauma?
Oh yeah, good question. I think I haven't seen over the last few days. I haven't kind of checked in with any updates. I saw the TalkSport interview. I think it was maybe something Moses put out or an interview. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Um, and I know they were talking. Lots of names have been chucked out. You know, your Hergoviches. People maybe saying, jump straight in there with Usyk, which I would be. Yeah, I wouldn't want personally.
Yeah.
Not to say that he doesn't have the capabilities, because he does, but I just think that would be too soon. I like the idea of a Hergovic fight if the money's right for Hergovic, because that would be a high risk for him
Yeah.
as well. They're talking about the names apparently in camp is Jermaine Franklin, which is an interesting one. We know he took Dillian White AJ rounds before those two a few years ago, before those two were I never like using the term washed up, but past
Yeah.
their best, shall we say.
Yeah.
They're past their best now. But at the time, White and AJ still had a lot to offer, and Jermaine Franklin made a good account of himself. Been a bit inactive though, Franklin. I think he last fought in May last year, and even then it was only a couple of 10 rounders, I think, if
Right.
memory serves me. So a
Yeah.
bit of inactivity there. I understand that matchmaking doesn't set the world alight, but I think as durable as Franklin is, I just think Moses will have far too much speed, IQ, accuracy, shot selection, just too much in his arsenal for
Yeah.
Jermaine Franklin to cope with. If that is the fight, I think Franklin he won't get blown out in 1 or 2 rounds, I don't think, but I would kind of expect a 3 to 6 round kind of ballpark stoppage for Moses there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so him, Hergovic, that's the one I really like. I'd love to see him in there with Hergovic.
Yeah.
I really would.
I think the Jermaine Franklin fight, I almost do like the route they're going down, because I don't think they should be rushing Moses. He's only 20, right? So Jermaine
Yeah.
Franklin, if you're going the Jermaine Franklin route, you're going the sort of slow build or slower build rather than a straight Parker, straight Usyk, which would be too much too soon in my opinion. And the Jermaine Franklin fight, if that fight gets made, in a way, I do see it being similar to Dillian White. Like I said, I don't think he gets banged out in 1 round, but Moses will have far too much for him in terms of far too much for
Yeah.
Jermaine to handle, because Moses mixes it up, head, body, big shots, applies pressure, and is measured in his work as well, which is really the telling of
Yeah.
a really strong boxing prospect. Is that,
He'll overwhelm him, Seth.
yeah,
He'll overwhelm him, I
yeah.
think.
But he'll do it in a way where he won't really leave himself open as well, which was the thing
No.
that we saw early on in Anthony Joshua's career, Dillian White's career, other British heavyweight prospects where, yeah, they could go in for the kill, but even Anthony Joshua would get caught. You'd find this chin. Dillian White would definitely get caught. Moses seems a lot more measured and a lot higher IQ boxer than those two at this stage in their career, right? So I do think
Yeah, great shout.
I do think he'd bang Jermaine Franklin out pretty quickly. He wouldn't be a first round demolition job, sorry, like Dillian White.
Mm.
But other than that, there are a few names at the heavyweight division right now. Now that he's broken into the ring top 10, I know we talked about Bakoli and Ajagba before. They're not bad shouts, in my opinion, for his next fight after Jermaine Franklin, potentially. But honestly, I know you mentioned Hergovic, but a fight that I would love to see domestically would be him versus Fabio Wardley.
Oh,
I'd love to see that.
and as a fan,
Yeah,
right? As fans, and we have to remember. I know we're analysts and we're commentators on
yeah,
boxing and run channels and the rest of it, but as a fan, that is tantalising,
Yeah,
isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
because I even think even stuff like Adelaide. I mean, I know.
yeah,
Oh, to the disclaimer, actually, me and Chris are from Chatham. He's a local lad to us.
yeah,
I've seen Moses. Had the luxury of seeing him spar a few years ago down at Ropes and Glory in Chatham, and I won't because it's not really the right thing for me to talk sort of sparring stories and
yeah,
opponents, but put it this way: at 16, 17 it was quite something seeing him kind of deal with very reputable heavyweights in that gym. That's put it that
wow,
way, Seth. And I
yeah,
actually lived with someone who's an amateur fighter about to turn pro, Joshua Antonio, the showcaser Antonio, who's a decorated amateur. The
okay,
little name drop for
yeah,
Joshua there, and he went to school at Greenacre in the Medway Towns with Moses. He knows Moses and Carol very well, and he's been talking about him for many, many years and knows him well and believes him absolutely to be the real deal. Um, but I think getting back onto it's looking likely it's going to be the Franklin fight. I
yeah,
think that's the route they're going down. I haven't heard anything like I said in the last couple of days. I think it's good matchmaking because on paper it took White and AJ rounds, but I think what people have to understand with that is Franklin is very good in sparring at dealing with a lot of very big heavyweights. Now,
mm,
most big heavyweights are fairly slow.
yeah,
AJ's got decently fast hands, but not got the best feet. I always find he looks very heavy footed a lot of the
yeah,
time to me, Joshua, outside of the Ruiz 2 fight where he came in about
mm,
16 and a half stone. For as good an athlete he is, I think his foot speed and getting in and out of range. He's not really a kind of on your toes Moses type fighter
no,
anyway. But I think Franklin, he's used to heavyweights like AJ and Dillian White in sparring. I think he's used to that sort of style, particularly more Dillian White, I think, because AJ does have decent hand speed. Moses brings a totally different, he's big, he's 6'4", 17, 18 stone, whatever he comes in at.
yeah,
And with that size and power comes an unbelievable speed for his size.
yeah,
His foot feints, the accuracy is on point, the shot selection, the angles, the way he kind of comes in, he's hit you 4 times. And by the time you've kind of weathered the storm,
yeah,
maybe, you kind of you back out, you may be looking to counter with something. He's gone, mate.
yeah,
He's back out of mid to long range.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
just as you've reset, he's jabbed you twice, he's back in, he's hit you with a flow, he's back out again.
yeah,
We are seeing a new breed of heavyweight with Moses. Maybe I'm hyping him too much. I'll still want to see him build. He has everything you want in a heavyweight, and he's got IQ, speed, and power on top. It's frightening,
yeah,
absolutely frightening, Seth. It really is. And he's only 20. He's going to
yeah.
get better. That's the most unbelievable thing is he's still improving.
And I think focusing on that is really important in terms of he is only going to improve from here. Now, the worst thing that they
Scary, isn't
can
it?
do for him, in my opinion, is put him in there with an Usyk or a Parker too soon. Because those are the sort of losses, potentially an Usyk, where if Usyk can, box rings around him and eventually overwhelm him and maybe beat him, those are the sort of performances that boxers can struggle to come back from at a young age, right? So I
Yeah,
don't want to see that happen too early. I'm focusing on a Jermaine Franklin fight for his development would be the best thing I think. But after that, after a Jermaine Franklin fight, do you see him like a Hergovich? Do you think Hergovich fight makes sense, or Wardley, or
yeah.
anyone in and around like that ring, top five, top 10,
Because
top five?
it's really hard to match it. It's such a good question and debate because what do you do with this guy?
Yeah,
He's all right. You can pick apart Dempsey McKean and Marius Wack and Dillian White
yeah,
and these guys that he's fought thus far. Um, but at the end of the day, we were talking about Dillian White being, oh, look at the shape he's in. He's going to give him rounds. We do this in boxing a lot, or the community does this, where they go, oh yeah, this is definitely a step up. Dillian White, experienced campaigner, gonna, and then he blows him around in 1 minute 59 seconds,
yeah,
and then those same people are going, oh, but he was no good, inactive, washed up. Both of
yeah.
those things can't be true, can they?
No,
You know, well, I think we actually just need to give Moses his props for what he's doing at the moment.
yeah,
The problem we've got is in terms of experience, and he had one he hasn't lost a fight. I believe. I don't think he's lost at amateur, and obviously hasn't lost as a pro. So he hasn't tasted defeat, and we know you often learn much more in your defeats than you do your wins. We know that. So
Yeah.
there's that aspect. Two, you chuck him in there too early with a Cabiel, who is an active world class heavyweight.
Yeah.
Joseph Parker, active world class heavyweight, decent athlete. Parker, decent hand speed,
Yeah.
good chin, decent footwork, right?
Yeah.
Good coach now in Andy Lee.
Yeah.
That would be a real test. But do you know what's bizarre? This is my overall point with this conversation, like
Yeah.
whether it's a Hergovich, Parker, after whatever. We're talking about a guy who's had 13 fights, who's still a prospect, really,
Yeah.
who's 20 years of age. And we're talking about Hergovich, Cabiel, Parker,
Yeah.
Usyk for someone that might be able to challenge him and give him rounds. I mean, that's insane to me.
He's at an insane level, and he's achieved that level so early in his career. You know, he's reached a level that
Yeah.
most boxers will never reach. I know there's been some talk
Maybe
about.
after 25 fights, Seth,
Yes.
maybe they
Yeah.
do. But like after 13 fights,
Yeah. And perhaps
so
it. But
AJ was fighting for a first world title. What? Charles Martin after 18 fights, I think it was.
yeah. Yeah. And he was an Olympian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gold medalist,
Yeah.
Olympian. Yeah.
But I know there's been some talk around maybe if Usyk declines the mandatory against Joseph Parker for, I believe, the WBO world title, that Moses might
Yeah.
become the challenger, and they do Parker v Moses for the vacant WBO world title. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a potential route for a world title for Moses. And I know we said about Joseph Parker, like you said, good chin, good coach, good footwork, packs a bit of a punch as well. You know, he put Bacoli on his ass, right? There's not
Mm.
forget about that. It was a Bacoli on short notice, no doubt, but he put Bacoli on his
Mhm.
ass. So definitely packs a punch, and isn't one of these boxers with pillow hands at all, right?
No.
But if Moses can get through that, then he's a world champion at 21, which would be unheard of
Cool.
since Tyson times, right?
Well, that puts him up there. Not as Tyson's got the record, we know that for
Yeah.
youngest, but that puts him in the conversation. That puts him in the ballpark of Joe Lewis,
Mm,
and Mike Tyson, and I think there's another couple in there.
yeah.
Herbie Hyde, I think Herbie Hyde's one. So that puts him in that kind of ballpark. But I
Yeah.
think what I'd like to see is the route would be Franklin, someone like a Hergovich in and around that level,
Mm,
because I think if you put him in domestically now, Adelaide, anyone like that, Jamie TKV,
yeah.
Solomon Dakers, mate, he will annihilate them.
Yeah.
Absolutely annihilate
He's
them.
sort
There's
of.
no point.
Yeah. He's sort of.
Dubois,
Yeah.
I think stylistically he's all wrong for Dubois. I
Mm,
genuinely think he, and I know I've got a bit of inside information. I won't share too much, but they have sparred, and all I'll say is that might be a tough night's work for Dubois. Let me
really.
just put it that way there.
Wow. I can see it stylistically. I can definitely see it because Moses. How do you beat him? Only way you can really beat him is maybe outwork him if you can take his shots, outwork him. And Usyk, a Parker are the only guys that could really do that. A Dubois couldn't really outwork him. Can Dubois even take Moses' shots? Because
It's
Dubois has been
tough, Seth,
stopped.
because we don't know. The question marks are,
Yeah,
he hasn't lost yet. His lack of experience. We don't know what his chin's like.
no,
There's certainly. He would have been dropped in sparring. Or in fact, I know he has.
yeah,
Um, but everybody gets dropped in sparring. You're
it
trying
happens.
things out. You're working
Yeah,
on different stuff. You're going to take risks. Of course you are. We don't know, do we? If he has
no,
to take a knee, if he does get dropped and gets caught and switched off, because it only takes a couple of seconds to switch off. How does he react to it? These are all question marks we don't know.
yeah,
But the conversation is who in there is gonna get those question marks answered, and it
yeah,
probably is going to be the likes of Bacoli, Cabiel, Parker, a Jagbar.
yeah.
It's going to be one of those sort of guys. I would think. Um, only time will tell, to use that cliche, Seth, I suppose.
It's very true. It's very true, and that's honestly what makes his career so interesting. And it makes boxing so interesting as well because you have these fights where questions are going to be answered. You know, it happens at all
Mm,
levels, all weight divisions. You're going to find out: can this guy really box for 12 rounds? Can this guy take a shot? Can he get
yeah,
up off the canvas? Can he do all of these things? Right? That's what you need to become a world champion, and we're going to find out if
absolutely.
Moses has that in him. I'm willing to bet he does, but we don't know until we know, right? And also, you mentioned an interesting point about him potentially dropping down domestic level. Like you said, he'd blow those guys out really. It's interesting because you see
Um,
some fighters, they come up through the small halls, they go southern area, English, British, European championship. But Moses has sort of just streamlined the process and got his way to world level, in 14 fights.
it's mad, isn't it?
It is. It is.
And my question to you
Yeah.
is that, that's just come off the top of my head. I hope you don't mind me
No,
firing a question
please.
back at you. Is it because he's just that talented and that advanced beyond his years for this current era of heavyweights? Or is it a reflection that perhaps this era of heavyweights isn't all that great? Which is it? Or is it a combination of both? Because this is what I've been thinking the last
Yeah.
week.
To sit on the fence, I want to say it's partially a combination of both, but I actually think this generation of heavyweight is pretty good. I think
Yeah,
you've got the likes of a Filip Hrgovic, who, in my opinion, is a great boxer. Who's
yeah.
I wouldn't say he's nowhere near a
Great
world
gym.
title, but you know he's not even in the world title picture really, and he's an amazing boxer in my opinion. You've got Fraser Clark,
Yeah,
who's an Olympian, a great boxer,
yeah,
heavyweight. He's fighting for the British title.
yeah,
You've got a Jagbar who just drew with Bacoli. He's not even in the top 10 anymore, and I think he's
yeah,
able to operate at a very high level.
yeah,
So I think it's a pretty good heavyweight generation of heavyweights, and Moses is right in the mix. He's now in the top 10 for ring. I've said that a few times. He's in the top 10 for ring, so we're going to see him hopefully in not the next fight, but the fight after. Get some of these big fights, and we're going to really find out, is he at the level? Like I said, I'm willing to bet he is, but we're going to find out.
what we want to see, Seth, don't we? I know you
Yeah,
do the same as me, right? And I know I'm slightly biased because he's a local
yeah,
hero from where I'm from as well. And there's such a buzz about about town. I can
yeah,
tell you, when you've got something special, like with Fabio Wardley in Ipswich,
yeah,
you really look to when they're from your area, it's a
yeah,
real, there's a sort of buzz and everyone's sort of texting me and, oh bloody hell, like,
yeah,
the pubs were all going mad round about town, and
yeah.
that's what you want. I think every town or region needs a little bit of a local hero,
Definitely.
and he's certainly one of them.
Yeah,
Um, but what we want to see, don't we? If we're being honest,
yeah,
we want to see him maybe switch because he's that clever and quick, and he's in and out. That kind of Kent style as well is very much
yeah,
kind of in and out, offense and defense. He, we want to see someone land flush on his chin. And how does he take it? Does he,
yeah.
shake his head and come back forward?
Mm,
Does his legs stick? Because we see, like with AJ, when
yeah,
he takes a big shot on the temple, his legs go
yeah.
stiff as a bolt, don't they? And it takes him about 3 rounds to recover.
It does. Yeah,
Fury tends to go down quite a lot if he's
mm,
caught clean by a big punch. We saw that Cunningham, Wilder, we've seen it. But
yeah,
he's got great powers of recovery, gets
yeah,
the oxygen back in. His cardio is really good. So the brain gets the oxygen again, then he can come again. You know, he's not particularly massive in muscle mass because we know with too much muscle mass, the muscles require, a bit like a Ferrari engine or a V8 engine, they require a lot of resource.
yeah,
So when he takes a clean shot, you know, is he going to be able to absorb it? Is he going to be wobbly? Can he recover? We don't know any of this. This is the thing
yeah,
yet because nobody's bloody caught him like that yet.
yeah, yeah,
We was hoping Dillian White was, and it
yeah,
and it was so one sided. It was so one sided, Seth, that I actually genuinely felt sorry for White because
yeah,
it was almost like watching Liverpool against Ebbsfleet. Do you
yeah,
know what I mean? It was just, and I mean this with
yeah.
respect to White, but it was so, there was such a chasm in there. It was,
Mm,
I've never seen Dillian White in that much trouble
no,
ever in his career, and he's been at world level.
yeah,
You know,
but pretty much from the first punch that Moses landed, I could tell Dillian's in trouble here. Like even the way he's reacting, it was
Yeah, reacted to it.
it was the
Yeah,
two, it was the cross to the body, and he almost, it felt like he flew across the ring, like he was jumping all over the ring. He was
he's a
very
big man as
fearful of that.
well.
Huge, yeah, yeah. He's not a small guy at all, but was really fearful of that power. And when you're in the ring and the shark smells blood, a shark like
Oh,
Moses in there, at 20 years old, that's looking to make a point that, Moses definitely knew that that was his biggest step up in terms of name and commercial value.
yeah.
He had to go out there and put a performance on. That's exactly what he did. And Dillian White offered little to no resistance in that fight. And we saw what we saw.
It's the composure for me, Seth.
Yeah,
That I think people don't talk. They talk about his skill set, his composure, and his relentless in there. There was no showing too much respect to White in the
yeah,
ring there, and maybe sort of like take him a couple of rounds because he didn't want to sort of embarrass him. As soon as he had him hurt,
yeah.
it was as clinical a finish as you'll ever see. There was no Frank Bruno-esque AJS like, right, come on, let your hands go now.
Mm,
It was just composed, calm, stoic, and clinical. For 20, I mean, I don't know about you, Seth. I mean, it wasn't that long ago for you, by the way, but
yeah.
when I was 20, bloody yeah, it was hard enough getting out of bed and getting into work. I mean, this guy's it's unbelievable. His mental
Yeah,
fortitude for a young
yeah,
lad is just unbelievable.
yeah. But also, I'll come back and say, Dillian White in boxing, you have to earn your respect as well. So you have to go out there. You have to be
True.
throwing punches. You have to show some resistance. Dillian White didn't do that, and even
Mm,
from his walkout, he was
true.
looking all over the place. He looked a bit out of sorts. It was weird, and
Mm.
Moses just put it
All
to
good
him.
points.
Yeah, Moses
Yeah,
just
all
put it
good
on him.
point. Valid.
But do you think, in terms of, we'll go back to Moses, in terms of him going to a domestic level again and claiming that British heavyweight title, do you think that's something that's worthwhile? For me, I'm a fan who thinks the British heavyweight title probably has more prestige than it does. Like, to me, it's a really big deal. Like, winning
Yeah.
in English and then going on to a British heavyweight title, it still holds a lot of value to me. But do you think there's any worth in Moses doing that? Just to say, even on his resume, he's a former British heavyweight champion. Or do you think he's surpassed that now and there's no point in him going back? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's another really good question because I understand the history and it's kind of like, and we sometimes see this and going straight in there at world level. I think for Moses, I think he's so advanced. I just wonder with his team around him now. I know Ben Davison wants him to have rounds. They're still looking for rounds, but
Mm,
does anyone at British level, you kind of think, okay, we were speaking with Jamie TKV, and I know he wants another shot at that title.
mm,
Fraser Clark's fighting for it, isn't he?
yep.
Right, for the British title. Dave Allen, if he beats Mac Madoff,
Mm,
you kind of think, okay, the winner of what about if Mac Madoff does an absolute job on Dave Allen? Do we maybe Mac Madoff in there with Moses again?
I like that.
Stylistically, Mac Madoff,
I'm a fan.
or maybe wrong, but again, it's a name.
Yeah,
Mac Madoff hits hard. But
definitely.
at the same token, if Dave Allen does a job on him and as a career-defining win, which I think that would be against Mac Madoff,
Yeah,
other than Lucas Brown maybe when he won all those years ago.
yeah.
Dave Allen's got a great chin. Could he at domestic level give Moses rounds? I know Dave Allen's gone on record as saying he doesn't want any part of Moses. He thinks he'll be battered.
Yeah,
But Dave Allen's very self-deprecating, and he,
yes.
he he makes out he's a lot worse than what he is for me, the White
Yeah.
Rhino. He always puts himself down anyway, so that might be a bit of no, he'll absolutely annihilate me. I ain't doing that.
Mm.
But he'd give him rounds. I think potentially. I
I
don't know.
I think he definitely could. It's hard because Dave Allen, like I was saying, who are his notable wins? Say, I mean, if he beats Mahmudov, that's definitely up there. But you take
Yeah,
Lucas Brown, yeah, not Dave Allen, Johnny Fisher, and I'm like, look at the level of Johnny Fisher. This is probably
Nick Webb. But then outside of
yeah,
that, you like Nick Webb and you think, but they were. Let's be honest, they
yeah,
weren't well beat as well. People
no.
like Nick Webb and stuff. Like, if we're being honest.
And even if you look at the level of Johnny Fisher, I look at the other British heavyweights, and I think they all beat Johnny Fisher. So he's not at that level. So am I saying he's basically a
Mm,
Southern area level fighter, and that's one of your best wins? And then you want to fight Moses in the top 10? I'm not sure. I'm not sure
mm,
how well that would
mm.
go for Dave Allen. But I'm,
Yeah.
I'm a huge Dave Allen fan. I've probably mentioned to you before, but I was at the
Yeah,
Copper
me too.
Box live when he beat Johnny Fisher in the rematch. So that was a huge KO and definitely immediately made me an even bigger Dave Allen fan. A Makhmudov fight, I struggled to see him getting past the Makhmudov, but definitely the winner of that fight could definitely be in conversations to fight Moses next. I like that a lot.
Mhm.
At British level, in terms of guys that could give him rounds, I think Fraser Clark could. Fraser Clark's been stopped by Fabio Wardley, but he's still a very good boxer in my opinion. Still got a lot to give, and at British level, it's hard. There's a part of me that fancies him over Jamie TKV to pick up that British heavyweight title. So Clark v Moses interests me a lot. Does interest me.
Plenty to debate and plenty of fights out there for him moving forward. Watch this space is very much the order of the day, and there's no rush. The guy's barely out of his teens.
Yeah,
Crazy,
yeah.
isn't it? Oh
Um,
God.
I think we all agree the last thing we want to see is him sort of get rushed because we know we've seen it so many other boxers. Never really at heavy. Actually, no, we have seen at heavyweight, but prospects get rushed too much too soon, and then they have a bad loss and never really recover. That's the last thing we want to see with
Big Davy
Moses.
Price comes to mind, Seth, doesn't it?
Yep,
Remember that one?
yep,
Oh dear. People laugh now, but mate, 6'7",
yeah.
bronze medalist,
Mhm.
hits really hard. One of the biggest punchers out there. Another boxer from my town's called Tom Dallas, who was a
Okay.
heavyweight back in the days from the Medway town, said to me the hardest right hand and left hook he's ever faced.
Wow.
But punch resistance, cardio, and chin was left something to be desired. And these are all
Yeah.
the things that we don't know with Moses yet. Does that speed and power carry up to rounds 9, 10, 11, and 12, the championship rounds? Don't
Yeah.
know because we
Uh,
haven't seen it yet.
we haven't, and I know this was potentially a sort of question mark that we had around Fabio Wardley as well. Going
Mm.
into once he started to reach this next level and fight the Justice Hooneys of the world, and
Yeah,
his power did carry because he knocked him out. I believe it was in the last round, wasn't it? The 12th round, he knocked out
yeah.
Justice Hooney. So
That's a good fight for Moses, Seth. Justice Hooney, I think, is an interesting name because Hooney's
yes,
quick,
yeah,
got good in and out, good IQ. His punch resistance isn't brilliant. We've seen that now. Saw that with Lorena.
yeah,
You've seen him wobbled a few times, but
yeah,
IQ,
yeah,
punches different angles, gives some different looks. Will give Moses something to fit. It'll take Moses is very good at download. That's why he's a good match for Ben Davison. He downloads and processes information.
yes,
And he
yeah,
saw what Dillian White was doing in there after what Ben Davison was instructing him to do and executed it. And I think someone like Justice Hooney will give him a little puzzle that he'll have to work out. It will take him a little. He's not just a straight up and down forward, but
no,
he's not a one-dimensional fighter, Hooney.
yeah,
And that that
yeah.
that could be a good name because he'll shape up and give some different looks and come in at different angles and circle around the ring a bit. And that could be a good one.
I like that fight a lot. There's so many good fights. This is what I'm saying. The heavyweight division is a really good heavyweight division at the moment.
It's varied. It's
Yes,
got depth to it. That's fine. I'm not
yeah,
saying that it's elite like the 70s and that, but
yeah.
it's got depth,
Yes,
definitely.
and a lot of different styles as well in that heavyweight division. Very interesting and potential matches for Moses there. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, nice. Watch this space.
definitely, definitely.